Trustee Roth, are you going to voice vote today?
I can, although PrimeGov let me in today, it's feeling like a good day, but
Okay.
I'm ready audibly just in case.
I just don't see you all the way into the meeting in PrimeGov yet.
I'll keep working at it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we ready to get started?
We have a quorum.
Fantastic.
We're still waiting
Thanks for joining us.
on Councilman Stonecipher to join us.
We just left a previous meeting, so I'm sure he'll be along shortly. But before we get started, Lacey, do you want to make a couple of announcements?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Trustees, manager, secretary, and municipal councilor, please remain unmuted during the meeting. Other participants and staff are to remain on mute until recognized by the chair or manager. If you are calling into the meeting, mute and unmute your phone using *6. If the video conference is disconnected at any time during the meeting shall be stopped and reconvene once the connection is restored. If communication is unable to be restored within 15 minutes, and if communications cannot be restored, the meeting will reconvene on May 25th, 2021 at 5:00 p.m. Anyone wishing to speak about an item or to be included in the citizens to be heard portion at the end of the meeting should call 405-297-2245 or text 405-219-7987 or email lacy.kelly@okc.gov. Please submit your request now to avoid receipt of your request after the item has been considered. The agenda and attachments are available online at okc.gov. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, thank you. With that, I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. And second item on the agenda is approval from minutes of the April 27th meeting of the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust. Any questions or comments from trustees? If not, I will take a motion or a second.
A second.
All right, please cast your votes.
Aye.
And the item passes unanimously. Item 3 on our agenda is to ratify the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust claims. On those, I will take a motion.
I'll offer a motion to approve. Or a second.
I'll second then.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Aye.
And that also passes unanimously. Brings us to item 4, items for individual consideration. Item A, contract with Allen Gibbs and Hullock LC for audit services. Kathy?
This is the annual contract for audit services for the Economic Development Trust. The fee for this year's audit will be $22,820, which is a 4% increase from the previous fiscal year. And it's funded through the various TIF funds and through the General Obligation Limited Tax Bond Fund.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from trustees? If not, I'll take a motion.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Please cast your votes.
Aye.
And it passes as well. Brings us to item B, resolution waiving consultant selection procedures, and approving a contract for architectural services with ADG. And I believe, Jim, you were going to discuss this in place of Eric.
Yes, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to help. Basically, ADG had been performing design services under a private contract with the Mary Gardens Foundation, and this contract will just put them under a city contract or economic development trust contract for bidding and construction administration services for the duration of the project. We bid it in two phases. Basically, the first phase is the public contribution, and that's what this will apply to. And then there's the second phase, which would be privately constructed by the foundation.
Jim, what is the total duration of the project timeframe?
We're expecting to be completed by the end of the year. It's
Okay.
about a 5 to 6 month construction period.
Okay.
Any other questions on this item? If not, I will take a motion.
I'll second.
We have a first and second. Please cast your votes.
Aye.
And the item is passed. Brings us to item C, the ratifying and approving of addendums 1 and 2 and awarding the contract to Lingo Construction Services. Jim Llewellyn, I think you were going to discuss this one as well.
Yes. This is the public portion of the project we just discussed. We advertised it and received 3 bids. Lingo was the lowest bid at basically 2.1 million. We also received a bid from Wind Construction and Downey Construction, but both of those were substantially higher. Like we mentioned before, we expect this work to be completed by the end of the year. And as Lingo is going to be doing the private portion of the project, having them as the contractor on the public portion will just means there's one contractor on site and make things move a lot smoother that way. Is there any questions?
Do we know what the estimate was going to be on that bid? Just
2.4 million. 2.4 million.
2.4. That's great. Excellent. If there's no other questions, I'll take a motion on the item.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Aye.
And the item's passed. Brings us to item D, Alliance for Economic Development of Oklahoma City, fiscal year 2020-2021 third quarter report. Kathy.
Thank you. The President's report for the Alliance for Economic Development is in your packet. This report covers the time period from January 1st to March 31st. Just to hit a few of the highlights, we were, very involved even into March and continue to be helping with the Small Business Continuity Program. We helped the city with all 4 rounds of the program that they conducted. Just on the grant side, helped about 770 businesses through the various grants that we provided. We also managed a program for Oklahoma County that received 802 applications, and we funded 314 of those. So I think all in all, we've probably distributed somewhere around almost $50 million to small businesses in Oklahoma City and Oklahoma County since the beginning of the pandemic. And it's taken a lot of effort with the chamber staff and my staff and the city staff to get all of this work done. And we especially want to thank First Fidelity Bank and American Fidelity for helping us with the kind of behind the scenes processing for all of these applications. We continue to work on the new Homeland grocery store at Northeast 36th and Lincoln. The Alliance is a part of the development partnership on that project. Construction on the store is on schedule. We hope to turn the store over to Homeland to begin equipping it and stocking it in August. So we're making really good progress on that project. The Convention Center and Hotel, the Omni opened in January. So I think it's been very successful so far. And I think they're getting a lot of visitors, especially to their food and beverage, and now and to the hotel itself. On job creation, we've been working quite a bit on mission support for Tinker Air Force Base, looking at our different options and development possibilities in that area. We completed the refinancing of the MROTC, the Maintenance Repair Overhaul Center that is at Tinker and owned by the Oklahoma Industries Authority. We are in the process of completing the transaction to acquire 577 acres at I-240 and Eastern for as a site for major industrial development. And we're working with the Office of School Lands through the state of Oklahoma to get that transaction completed. And I think we're pretty close to getting that to closing. Just other things on the northeast side of Oklahoma City, we have received a grant from the National Trust for Historic Preservation to help us with planning for the renovation and reuse of the Lions Mansion and the Brockway Center. So we have an RFP for consulting services out right now to begin that process. We assisted with the development of the Restore OKC Market on 23rd Street that recently opened. We donated the construction of the parking lot to that project and are providing the land at a very minimal lease rate. Just lots of other projects that are still going on. Innovation District projects, Robinson Park development has been announced, and we'll be working with that private developer to bring that project forward through the process. And then we're still seeing a lot of activity downtown. So a lot of projects that may have kind of slowed down during the pandemic have picked back up again, and we're trying to get those to the point where they can begin construction. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions, and that's about it.
Any questions for Kathy? Kathy, I just once again would like to tell you how much I appreciate all the work you and your staff did through all of COVID. Really in efforts just to save our small businesses and help them continue to stay in business during the pandemic. So my hat's off to you on that. That's an incredible job doing something that we've never done before. So thank you so much.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you and the city council for their support. It was definitely an all hands on deck kind of effort to get that money out. So.
All right, with that, I'll take a motion.
I'll offer a motion to receive and approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. And the item passes. Brings us to item 4E, proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 Economic Development Trust budget. Joanna.
Yes, I'm going to share my screen. Maybe. Here we go. Okay, can everybody see the budget here? Okay. So the first thing I wanted to say is that item 4E begins on page 98 of the PDF packet that Lacey sent out yesterday with the budget starting on 99. Or if you're in PrimeGov, you can click on the attachment to open the budget. So I've got a handful of slides here to just go through sort of some highlights, and then of course I'd answer questions if you guys had any. Well, doesn't seem to be skipping forward for me. Okay, so our budget this year totals 1.53 or 153.7 million. That's net of interfund transfers. This is a 7% decrease from last year's budget of about 165 million. The decrease is attributable mostly to the elimination of budget for long-term debt issuance, of which we don't have any budgeted this year, and also a sizable decline in interest earnings. This is offset by fund balance and payments from other funds, which have both increased this year. As you can see here, TIF accounts for the largest portion of the budget, 96.4 million or 64% of the overall budget. It's presented here net of the interfund transfers. Those are from TIF 2 and TIF 8 and are transferred to TIF 13 for the Convention Center Hotel. I'll talk about that in detail as we go through those individual budgets. You can also see the different TIF project plans listed to the left of the pie chart. GOLT accounts for 45.7 million or 29% of the overall budget and includes our job creation program and our affordable housing projects. Then finally, we have general economic development budgeted at 11.6 million, representing 7% of the budget. And this is where we budget for our annual retail incentives and annual service contracts. Quick overview of revenue and expense. So here I've charted the revenues by category. You can see fund balance accounts for the largest portion at 67% or 105.9 million. I'd like to note that we've budgeted all of fund balance in an effort to provide a full accounting of the finances, but it's not all expected to be spent. The portion that's not going to be spent is budgeted as an expense called Reserve for Future Program Costs, and you'll see that on the next slide. Another comment I want to make about property tax is that for each of the TIF districts, we've budgeted property tax using the county's certified amounts from the prior year, applying a historical growth rate consistent with that area, and then discounting for collection rates. And we can talk about those individually too as we go through the detailed TIF district budgets. And finally, the transfers category is mostly comprised of transfers from the general fund for our retail incentives and annual service contracts. On the expense side, as you can see here, the reserve for future program costs that I mentioned earlier. This is budgeted at $66 million. In addition to this, we've got $34.4 million budgeted for debt reserve. Together, those total $100.4 million, which accounts for 65% of the overall budget and is the lion's share of that fund balance that we budgeted. Rounding out the expense categories are debt service, which are the upcoming annual payments required on our outstanding debt. Other services and charges, which is where most of our project costs and contracts are expensed. And then we've finally got other expenses. So next I'll go through each of the separate components of the budget. In the printed budget, the TIF districts are ordered numerically, and that's how I'll present them so that you can go follow along on your printed copy. However, here for demonstration purposes, I've also grouped them by project plan. And as we go through numerically, you'll notice that 1, 7, and 11 are missing. Those are part of the Innovation Regional Plan, which is managed by Okura. So those are not part of our trust budget. So if you flip the page in your printed budget, you'll see our TIF district number 2. 2 and 3 is first. This is our TIF, downtown TIF area TIF. Property tax has a 97% collection rate in this area, and it has a pretty healthy growth rate as well. And so we've got that budgeted at $16.5 million for next year. We also have developer loans in this TIF. We've got a loan for Century Center, Steel Yard, 21C Hotel, and the Midtown Parking Garage. These all have an outstanding principal balance of $4.5 million, and we're expecting just under $300,000 in loan payments next year. We have the Skirvin Hotel tax and the state match budgeted at $150,000 this year. This is down from 300,000 in the prior years, averaging 300,000 in the prior years. And this is, of course, due to the shutdown and the pandemic. Hopefully we're wrong and it's much more. On the expense side, we budgeted a little over $6 million for active projects, which include the Oklahoma County Capital projects, Metro Tech, South Bryant Campus renovation, I-89 administration building, West Village, Myriad Gardens, Villa Teresa, and Barquet. As mentioned earlier, the funding plan to pay off the convention center debt calls for $3.53 million from TIF 2 annually. So that's budgeted as an expense. And then we have our budget for debt service payments in reserve on approximately $49 million in outstanding bonds issued in 2018. Riverfront redevelopment, so TIF 4, budgeted at $5.3 million, accounts for 3.3% of the budget. Property tax is estimated a little over $1 million per year. Static growth and healthy collection rate of 93% in that area. Sales tax on this project is related to employment levels at Dell, so it's not quite as volatile as the Skirvin state match. So we left the budget at $300,000 for FY22. TIF 4 currently has no active projects or debt. We do have one in the works, so you all may be hearing about a project in the coming months to improve the community just south of Dell, which is owned by the Oklahoma City Housing Authority. Next, we have TIF 8, the Devon TIF. This is budgeted at $30.6 million, 19.4% of the total budget. Property tax here is essentially Devon's minimum tax payment of $11.3 million plus a handful of additional accounts, total just over the $11.3 million. The expense budget includes the $5 million that we're contributing towards the Myriad Gardens Crystal Bridge renovation. $950,000 is budgeted annually for support of the Convention Center Hotel. And then we've got debt service and debt service reserve budgeted for approximately $91 million in outstanding bonds that were issued in 2013. TIF 9, Northeast Renaissance, is budgeted at $1.6 million, counts for 1% of the budget. Property tax is estimated just under $100,000. The growth rate is about 8%. The collection rate is currently only 31%. This will affect our ability to generate TIF for funding future projects in this area. The general fund payment is associated with the 23rd Street retail project. We have, on the expense side, we have $900,000 remaining in the budget of the Homeland project. This is remaining after the loss of that headquarters and will likely be returned to the GOLT fund. Likewise, you'll see that we have split the remaining fund balance to begin paying back the GOLT fund for both 23rd Street projects, the retail and the clinic, and then the Homeland project. TIF 9 owes GOLT a total of $8.4 million, or $7.5 million if we send the $900,000 back. So it's about $7.5 million. Our current plan is to budget half of the remaining fund balance until the reserve for future projects reaches $1 million, and then we'll budget to send more back to GOLT for repayment on those loans. Next, we've got First National, TIF 10, budgeted at just over $5 million, or 3.2% of the budget. Minimal budget here for property tax this year, but we should start seeing increases next year as those projects begin to come online. You'll also see the change here in the budget where the loan comes off the budget. The long-term debt proceeds come off the budget, and we begin to see other debt repayment sources come online. On the expense side, we have around $1 million remaining from the $25 million loan to be dispersed to the project. And debt service is currently interest only during the construction period, and this will also go up next year, along with increases to the other sources to pay that debt. Western Gateway, TIF 12. You can barely see it there on my, I don't know if this is my 12th or 15th or 20th pie chart, but it was the best way I could display the budget. So it's 0.1% of the total budget. And basically it's revenue, the property tax in and then out for project costs. We do maintain a small 5% admin fee on the property tax. And as they start selling properties, I assume that the budget amount obviously will continue to grow. Next, we have TIF 13, Quarter Shore. This is the Omni TIF District, budgeted at $20.7 million. We have a healthy fund balance here, where as we reserve funding for future debt service. Their required minimum tax payment goes into effect this next year, which is what you see there on the property tax line, that increase there. They have a minimum tax payment of 1.4 million on that project. And you also see the TIF 2 and TIF 8 transfers in, budgeted as a source for debt payment. We also see hotel tax, sales tax from the general fund, Bass Pro and Skirvin leases from Okra coming in to help pay the debt on this project. And then of course the expenses are associated with the debt payments. Next, we have our GOLT program, budgeted at $45.7 million. It accounts for about 29% of the budget. This budget includes the $30 million that we received from our sale of GOLT bonds this month. We received that last week. And it contemplates, of course, a healthy reserve for future projects. We have a handful of jobs projects that we expect to pay out next year, along with a couple of affordable housing projects. Those include Amazon, Heartland, T-Tech, Bakery Bling, Costco, and then affordable housing projects include Page Woodson, Phase 3, and 700 West as those begin construction. Our general economic development budget totals 11.6 million, counts for 7.4% of the budget. This budget includes our retail incentives for Costco, budget at 1.2 million. That's the max that they can receive annually. 300,000 for Cabela's and 250,000 for the outlet mall, which is still under negotiation. We wanted to get it earmarked because it is transferred from the general fund and has to be budgeted there. We also have our annual contracts here for the various organizations we work with. The majority of the increase in the payment from the general fund is associated with increases at Scissortail Park, with full operations coming online in 2022, increases to Myriad Gardens due to construction affecting revenue estimates, $750,000 provided to the First Americans Museum, which is in addition to the $2 million from the Chickasaw Nation funds. Finally, our process that you guys will see over the next few weeks. This is just the introduction, and then this will come back to you for consideration on June 22nd at our next monthly meeting. And then following that, it'll be sent to City Council to be received on their concurrence docket. And I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Joanna. Jim Roth, do you have a?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joanna, thank you for the overview. Just a couple of questions, particularly in the TIF property tax collection. I'm curious to know more about the collection rate that you shared. 97%, I think, was the best number. Obviously, you had indicated some concerns associated with 31. I guess first question, is there a point where you begin to become worried about a collection rate within a TIF district? And are we at that with any of these yet?
I think the only one we would be really concerned about would be TIF 9. And I think it's really just it's going to hinder this early growth for that TIF. Now, that's not to say that it won't increase as that we see improvements and we see projects come online. But yeah, I would say we would be concerned about that one for sure.
Okay. And as you look at the overall budget, I appreciate the pie charts. Thank you. When you look at gold at 29% roughly, general economic development at 7.4, are you comfortable with the way that the pie is currently divided? Are there ways that we ought to be working this year, next year, and subsequent years to reallocate the pie so that the city of Oklahoma City is as effective as you would like to see it be?
The portions of the pie that are allocated to each of those components of the budget are dictated by revenue. And so the revenue coming into each of those TIF districts is going to really dictate kind of the portion of the budget that it receives. So I think in general, I think the GOLT program has a pretty healthy fund balance, I'll say, in a positive way. We did do that because if you guys will recall, we allocated $13 million for the purchase of that property out by 240, which we were planning to develop for a larger industrial purpose. And so since we were going to be kind of spending that much money, we thought it was a good idea to go ahead and sell those bonds and get the rest of that funding in our bank account so that we can continue to do jobs projects as we move forward. So I would say that one's probably larger than we would normally see, but I think there's an explanation for it. So.
And they're taxable bonds, so we don't, and interest rates are super low, so we don't have some of the other restrictions that you do with tax exempt debt.
All right, that's helpful to know. Thank you for the information. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to ask the question.
Any other questions for Joanna? Thanks, Joanna. And on that item, I guess we will vote to receive it. I'll take a motion.
I'll second.
All right, please cast your votes.
Aye.
This is Mark Stonecipher. I'm finally here. We had some technical difficulties, but I vote yes.
Thank you. All right, the item passes. Brings us to item number 5, General Manager reports.
The general manager report is in your packet. I really don't think I have anything to add. There's detail about all the different job creation projects that we've approved in the past, and detail about the year-to-date financials on each of the TIF districts as well.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Takes us to item 6. Do we have any comments from staff?
Mr. Chairman, this is Lacey.
Mm-hmm.
This is our
Yes.
last scheduled virtual meeting. And as your trust specialist, I just wanted to thank the trustees and the city clerk's office for your flexibility during the pandemic. And thank you so much for your patience with me and other staff as we worked to try and continue to do the trust business during very unusual times. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Lacey. I'll let someone else make the comment. I'm sure someone's going to make it, but thank you very much, Lacey. Any comments from trustees?
Well, just thank you for keeping us on point and doing very well. And, you know, technology can be good and it can also create havoc, but y'all have done an amazing job. And thank you for including us. And we look forward to seeing everybody in person again.
I'll just add to that as well. My gratitude to Lacey and Joanna, really Kathy and everybody. Thank you for accommodating all the ways. I wished I'd gotten my batting average up on Prime Gov now that we're moving off of it. But it's a bit of a flashback, but I'll take 333. And it was good enough for George Brett at one time, I remember. So, but thank you for all the patience with the staff to help us try to participate via Zoom or Prime Gov and now soon in person. I also wanted to offer a word of welcome to Councilman Stonecipher. Look forward to working alongside him and our new chairman, Stone, as well. So thank you.
Jim, glad to be here. Sorry it took a little while, but it's good to be on board. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Councilman Stonecipher, and to the staff. I imagine they thought that, oh, these virtual meetings will be easier. Little did they realize that probably a lot more work on them just trying to keep us in line. And Jim, I would say to you, don't forget that once we're back on the shoe, we still have to use Prime Gov. So I know that batting average is going to get much, much better.
All right. Well, I'm going to take a lesson. Maybe Wiley can help me.
There you go.
We'll do our best.
Thank you.
Do we have any citizens that have signed up to speak?
No, we don't.
I'm sorry, Amy, you said no?
No.
Thank you. That takes us to item 7, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.